From the Opubco Studios in Oklahoma City, it's Signing Day 2014. I'm Jenny Carlson. Oklahoma's commitments starting to roll in Norman on the fax machine, the day that fax machines actually count. And Ryan Aber joins us on the phone to talk about who the Sooners have seen national letters of intent from so far. Ryan, not many surprises, but some guys that were on the fence that have decided to go with the Sooners. 2 for 2 are the Sooners so far, starting with Courtney Garnett. Talk about his decision to be a Sooner.
Yeah, the momentum has continued today with OU's recruiting class. The first domino was Courtney Garnett, who had committed to OU just last week, was a longtime Texas commit, opened up his decision once Mack Brown left. But after his commitment, Courtney Garnett took a visit to Notre Dame, became enamored with the place, said it was about the relationships at OU versus the academic side at Notre Dame and some of the other advantages of the Irish, and in the end decided to honor his commitment and stick with the Sooners. And that's a big get for them because he was sort of the replacement for Brandon Glenn, their longtime commitment, who is going to wind up having to go the JUCO route.
Garnett, by the way, a defensive lineman from New Orleans, several New Orleans, Louisiana area guys that are signing with the Sooners this year. But another get that was unknown on this signing day, which, again, you don't often have much drama. Another lineman, this time on the offensive side, offensive tackle Kenyon Frison from out in Utah. Ryan, this was one that we didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, Frison had kept it pretty bottled up. He had offers from Arizona State and Nebraska, but this morning when he made his decision, Utah was the other hat on the table. But in the end, the opportunity to go to Oklahoma and play on the offensive line was too much of a draw to keep him at home, and that's another big get for the Sooners because they needed some big-time offensive tackle commits. They've got a couple guys who can play guard, but still needed to fill some holes in other places on the offensive line. And he's a big guy and has the ability and has at least the potential to do that.
You talk about big, 6'6", 285. You assume he'll go to Norman and add some weight to that already big frame, so a likely tackle there. And Ryan, we talked defensive line, offensive line. These are some of the products of the new assistant coaches that the Sooners have. Can't really say enough about those guys, can you?
Absolutely not. Jerry Montgomery and Bill Bedenbow have just done a fantastic job from what we've seen so far at closing on this class. They hadn't had much impact until these last few months, but their major impact immediately was on the 2015 class. But they definitely had a huge impact on the 2014 class with the way that they've closed, and that's been a big upgrade from what they've had in the past.
So 2 for 2 so far for the Sooners on guys on the fence or possible signees. They got 2 more to go, and speaking of Jerry Montgomery, he may weigh heavily, especially in the one known best to people around here, in DeAndre Clark from Douglas. Who's left, and what's the possibility of the Sooners going 4 for 4 on these guys today?
Well, there's 2 guys left. You mentioned DeAndre Clark, the big defensive end from Douglas, who remains officially committed to LSU, but there's been no secret that his mom wants him to stay at Oklahoma. He's also visited Arizona State and Ole Miss and said that they're in contention. He'll make his announcement at 2 o'clock at Douglas High School. And then later in the afternoon at about 5 o'clock out in Fresno, Micaiah Quick is going to make his announcement. He's an athlete, comes from the same school as Atari Bird and L.J. Moore, 2 defensive backs that the Sooners signed last year, and he's a big-time player. And if they close with those 2, Clark's the number 2 player in the state. Quick is one of the top 100 players in the country. And if they close with those 2, the Sooners will no doubt be in the top 10 in national team recruiting rankings.
Lastly, Ryan, you're in the Tulsa area today getting ready to attend union signing ceremony. You talked to Stephen Parker yesterday after he committed to the Sooners. A lot going on in the Tulsa area when it comes to the Sooners. What are you expecting to see today?
Well, I'm going to go see a couple guys I saw last night. First, at Union, Carson Meyer and Jeffrey Mead are both going to sign with the Sooners. Actually, both have signed with the Sooners, just the formality of the ceremony today. And then going over to Jinx, Stephen Parker, who was sort of the first of this big momentum push in the last couple of days. he committed to the Sooners yesterday and said that five-star running back Joe Mixon was sort of the leading force in recruiting him to OU, was calling him all the time, and finally wore him down and convinced him to stay in state.
All right, great stuff. We know you'll have great coverage in the Oklahoman and on News OK, as will the rest of our signing day staff. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.